Alright guys, Adam Van Ord here from Van Ord Customs, and you're watching live at 9:45. If you were tuned in at the very beginning, I apologize. I forgot the one most crucial, important thing, and my microphone was pointing the opposite direction, so if the camera was bumping all around, that's what was going on, and that was totally my fault. Aside from that, let me introduce what's going on, and thank you guys all for tuning back in this week after me taking a break last week, because I was on my way to King of Gurus out in Ohio. It was a great event. It was rain-free, although a lot of people thought it was going to rain, and it was a blast, man. I can't thank the guys out in Ohio enough, all of the admins on the Guru page, and especially Todd for hosting us. It was amazing, and if you haven't been to that event, it is definitely a must-hit event. Alright, let's talk about a couple other things, some housekeeping issues. One, if you are new to the show and haven't been on yet, I just ask that you kind of keep my comments PG. I try to put off a positive image and try to keep things on the positive side and promote good things in the hobby and great people. Additionally, let's talk about where else you can find my stuff. So you can find me at vanordcustoms.com. I have some license plates and banners and the Scale Garage backdrops and all of those things. You can also find any of the old interviews over on YouTube at Van Ord Customs. You can find me on Instagram under _Customs and right here on Facebook under Van Ord Customs. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring Desmond on and then talk a little bit about what's going on with him. Desmond is coming in and we'll get this thing started. Maybe. Come on, Facebook. There we go.
Hey, good evening. What's up, Adam? How are you tonight?
I'm good, man. And as always, my speaker is the wrong.
Hey, I'm going to go turn that light off behind me real quick. Hang on.
You got it. So, as always, guys, my speaker's the wrong volume. I have to change that every time. I even tested it beforehand. Never fails. So.
Perfect. Got it. That made it much better, much better. No more light in the background.
All right.
So, good evening. What's going on for you tonight?
You know, just doing live 9:45. It's nice to be back and doing it this week. Last week it was a nice break, but man, I kind of missed it. I'm not gonna lie. So.
Yeah, I'm real excited to be on. So thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have picked anybody else. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
So I guess we'll just fire it up and get started, man. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm 44. I've been living in New Jersey my whole life, born and raised. Only son to U.S. Irish immigrant family. So I have a sister. Been into the hobby now, mini trucking. Well, geez, just in the hobby itself, I guess. Since I've been about 7, maybe 8 years old. Let's see, been tattooing now for 23 years. I own my own business here in New Jersey, making sweet tatty love to people on a regular from around the world.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a pretty good part, keeping me active. It's one of my favorite things. And plus, it's awesome. I get to travel a bunch to do it. I almost get to travel as much tattooing as I do to play with toy trucks. So it's been a pretty good even fair trade with that
That's
stuff.
Awesome.
Single dad, got 2 great stepchildren that I've been raising since they were 5 and 7. They're 25 and 23 respectively now. I have a 13-year-old little girl named Baby Bear who's been seen out and about with me at many competitions and G6s around the U.S. Let's see what else. I got a grandbaby and one more on the way. I'm a giant tarantula nerd, love collecting tarantulas, and I don't know, man. I guess that's really pretty much about it. I'm a pretty simple guy. I'm a meat and potatoes lover. I love whiskey. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple.
Well, all right then. So, Des, how long have you been in the hobby in general?
The RC
the
hobby?
RC hobby.
Oh, geez, in general, like I said, probably since I was 7, I was introduced to it at an early age. A good friend of mine that I used to go to church with, believe that, he had gotten a Tamiya frog for Christmas one year, and we were roughly 7, 8 years old, and that was it. That was it for me. First hobby grade experience with an RC buggy. That year for my birthday, I had gotten the Hornet, and I haven't looked back. I took a break once I got my real truck and like my real driver's license and stuff like that. I took a break for a little while, invested a bunch of money into my one-to-one stuff, and got back into it roughly 2000, 2001, something like that. A couple of my customers started getting the Nitro buggies and the Nitro T-Max and such. So I got back into the Nitro game for a little while and enjoyed that. But man, it was just noisy and such a pain in the ass. You got to tune everything weather-wise and all that stuff. So I remember picking up a magazine. I don't remember which one it was, whether it was a Car and Driver, RC Car and Driver, or Car Action, whatever. But I remember seeing one of my first crawlers, like in a reader's ride. And if memory serves me correct, it was a Clodbuster based rig. It had one of those old Hustler chassis. And I was just sitting there thinking to myself, like, there's no way that part of the hobby is going to take off. There's no way. Like, there's no way. That's got to be the dumbest thing. Who wants to have a crawler? And then I remember the next month went by, picked up another magazine, and now there's more of them. And I remember seeing the TLT ones, getting dissected and used as for the axles, for the scalers back in the day. Then people were taking bruisers and, really tricking them out, and even doing the same thing with the old Blackfoot and the old Monster Buggy, or Monster Beetle, sorry, not the Monster Buggy, but, and then more and more you start seeing the scale scene, and man, it's just, I've been on a steady, I don't know if you want to call it a snowball going downhill or if I'm building momentum going uphill, but either way, it's been a steady progression for me, just watching and being able to experience the hobby explode, not even expand. It's exploding, like with what's going on nowadays. It's insane. I love it. Absolutely love it.
I would agree with the word explode. And it has. It's just taken off, man, and it's blown up so fast. And we'll talk about that later. But
all right.
What or who got you into the hobby, like, in the first place?
I think my first memories to anything radio or remote control was probably my uncle growing up had the old wired walk behind remote control. If memory serves me correct, it might have been like the old Smokey and the Bandit cop car. Or it might have been maybe the Roscoe from Dukes of Hazzard, but it was like an old, like 70s style cop car from what I remember. And I remember just being so fascinated with the fact that it was something that I didn't have to push. Like as a kid, you're, pushing matchboxes and Tonkas and stuff around. I just remember sitting there thinking, this is the most amazing thing to me at this point in time. I was probably 4 or 5 years old. Watching this vehicle move around my parents' house via my uncle and this wired remote that he had hooked up to it. So it was one of those things where I didn't know if I was really going to fall into it as deep and as fast and as hard as I have, but it definitely was probably my first memory of it. If there was anything before that, I honestly really don't remember.
Yeah. So we're going to move into the next question, but I want to address the people in here for just a quick second. So, cool. Guys, you can comment up what got you into the hobby, but additionally, I want to let you know that as you make comments or questions, you can spit them out. I'll try and jot them down and see if I can squeeze them in some as well. I'm trying to make things a little more interactive for you so that when you're watching and what's going on, and then later on, if you're on YouTube, you can put in comments and stuff and I'll address them later on as well, guys. But I just want to throw that out there. If you have questions, comments, things like that, I'll try my best to answer them or chuck them into our conversation here wherever I can. Because I had some feedback that it'd be nice to have a little more of that, and I'm trying. I got my pen. And we'll see what's going on. So if I'm like looking down writing, that's what's happening.
No sweat.
So my second one, you kind of talked about it a little bit, but let's reiterate it one more time in case anybody's coming in late and missed it. What was your first hobby grade RC?
The RC grade, radio control grade, was the Tamiya
Yeah.
Hornet. The Tamiya Hornet. That thing, I remember me and my dad. Oh my God, my dad probably thinks still to this day I was the biggest pain in the butt with that one because my dad would come home from work and I'm chomping at the bit, waiting to get back on the build with this thing. I'm sitting there in the window waiting, waiting, waiting. He'd show up, we'd have dinner, and I'm like forcing him to choke down his food and his dessert and stuff just to only get working on this buggy. And I remember we got the thing all done, charged that little, the old Hump Pack 7.2 nickel metal, and man, we go out, and the one thing that we forgot to do was set the pinion screw on the pinion gear screw on the armature of the motor. Turn it on, pull the trigger, or it was an old
Yeah.
twin stick, hit the button to go forward, and that thing just and I immediately just started crying. I literally lost it. I just started crying. I'm like, oh my God, my brand new birthday buggy just doesn't even work. So it's just a matter of taking the motor out, putting the pinion gear back on, tighten that set screw back down, and then finally let it rip tater chip, and we were off and running. And shortly after that, I remember I was busting my hump doing a lot of yard work around the house and around the development that I lived in. Now, mind you, again, I'm only 7, 8 years old. I think I turned 8 when I got the buggy. Some, weeding, helping some of the neighbors
Right.
out, maybe mow their grass or something like that, trying to get more money so I could get another hobby grade buggy because I was just so hooked. And I remember my second one, plain as day, bought it with my own money just a few months after the summer had ended. I got the Boomerang by Tamiya as well. And that was my first taste of a 4-wheel drive buggy. And I don't think I've owned a 2-wheel drive buggy since then. Like, to be honest with you, I think everything I've had since then has been all wheel or at least, open front diff and locked in the
Right.
back. So,
Okay, so we covered the basis, the groundwork of what got us to this point. If you weren't in RC, what do you think your hobby of choice would be?
man, that's easy. That's easy. One-to-one trucks. That's the only thing that I do as much and as grotesquely involved. Like I have 2 one-to-one rigs in my front yard. I'm getting ready to start a build on a third one. And I just sent my daughter's little Suzuki Samurai tin top off to get, roll cage and body work done to that. So that's a no-brainer. That's definitely the one-to-one. That's the only thing that I'm into nearly as much, or actually, I don't even know. I might be more into the one-to-one than I am into the mini
Yeah.
trucks. So it might be a little bit of a teetering tie, depending on which one's working better today. I take them out.
So, do you live in a good area for that? Because I feel like my specific area,
Oh,
there isn't really anywhere nearby to do it. So,
yeah. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. Like we have decent trail rides through the Pine Barrens with some good clay ruts and some good clay washouts. And, most of the wheeling of choice around here is all mud running, and I can't stand
no.
that stuff. It kills your truck. It breaks everything, rusts everything. Um, so I prefer just going for trail rides, finding the deepest set of ruts that I could find, in terms of like a washout rut. And I try to get my trucks as twisted as possible through those things. I do like to travel. Like I've had my Chevy one-to-one truck for just about 21 years now, and I've had that thing up and down the East Coast. I don't have a tow truck and I don't have a trailer, so everywhere I've ever taken my Chevy in the 20 plus years that I've had it, I've had to drive it there. I've wheeled Roush Creek with it in every variation that it's ever been. I've wheeled it throughout New York State, North Jersey. There's definitely some good mountains and trail riding up in northern Jersey. But where I'm at, I'm like, I don't know if you would consider it central, but it's definitely closer to South
Okay.
Jersey. I'm a lot closer to Atlantic City, so it's a lot of beachfront and then the Pine Barrens. But we do like the areas that we do go for the Pine Barrens where the clay ruts are. They're good. They're a lot of fun. They'll keep us occupied for a few
All
days.
right. Yeah. So that's a great additional side hobby, or maybe even your main hobby. I think a
Yeah,
lot of people watching this would probably be all over that if they had the opportunity. I know I would.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
So
Yeah, like it. I had my first taste of Moab this year for Easter Jeep Safari. And to be truthful, I wasn't planning on going back right away, but we've already made plans to go back for next Easter Jeep. And I've already set into motion plans to go to Axial Fest next year because of the fact I want to wheel the Fordyce Trail, which is right next to the Cisco Grove
Right.
campground. Not only that, I want to hit the Rubicon, which is I think maybe 45 minutes or an hour away. So next year for Axial Fest, I'm towing one of my one-to-one rigs out there on a trailer with a couple friends. Got some special guests that I'm bringing. Not making any announcements yet, but we're going to make a nice road trip out west. Spend probably 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks while we're out there. Working road trip, going to tattoo while I'm out there. I'm going to wheel both the historic trails, going to wheel Axial Fest. It's just going to be a pretty epic year next year for wheeling for 2019.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah.
Dan Wilson, I've been tattooing for 23 years. I
Yep.
just seen him pop that one up there.
Yeah. So, big tires or small tires, man?
What are we talking about? Which medium? 1-to-1 or RC?
RC.
RC, tiny tires all the way. All the way. Tiny tires all the way. I haven't run a 2.2 since K&K 3 years ago was the last time I ran a 2.2 rig. And well, actually, no, I'm sorry. I did run when I was still working with Pitbull and we came out with the 2.2 PBX AT. I ran that when I was about 1.5 to 2 years ago. So I did run that for a little while, but I haven't run anything over 4.5 inches in well over a year. No, I'm sorry. I just started running the 4.65 Mad Beast. So that's the tallest tire I'm running currently. I'm running that on that new Axial rig, but everything else is 419 and smaller.
So next question, brushed or brushless?
Depends on the application. I run both. I love both. For efficiency, for long-term running, like for, say for like a G6, nothing beats the efficiency of a brushless. But I think for competition-based settings, I prefer the control of a brushed. And I like that initial punch of a good brushed motor.
All right. What do you like most about the RC hobby?
The people. 100%. I've been asked that question a bunch, and it's always been the people. Like the people are what, unfortunately, the people are what give you the bad side of it as well, because the pissing and moaning and people are crying and people are worried about something being too expensive or being too cheap, and everybody's just everybody has their own opinion
Right.
and stuff. So I take the good with the bad, but definitely my favorite part of this hobby is 100% always been the people. I've made some of the best friends I have in my life currently through this hobby, and I've been able to maintain relationships with other best friends of mine prior to this hobby. So like sparking interest in friends along the years. Like, hey, check out what I'm doing. And then they get hooked and they're like, oh, okay, cool, this looks like a lot of fun. So been able to maintain some good relationships, and like I said, make even better ones over the years, and that's absolutely 100% my favorite part. No questions asked, is the people.
Yeah, and I'd have to agree with you. So I mean I really, really strongly came to that realization over the weekend. Like I had
The Gurus
Yeah, I
event.
had some mishaps. Like it used to be everything was always like win win win. And I had some mishaps and I didn't hit a podium all weekend, and that's fine with me. Like I had a blast, man. Like
Yeah.
talking to people, sitting down, chatting with them. Couldn't get anybody to do an interview, all of you. But sitting down, talking to everybody, chatting, hanging out with the people I never get to see, it's amazing. I just love the people.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely. It's always been the best part of it, especially like when you get to experience the camaraderie. That's like my favorite part of it is the camaraderie. So like how you were saying you were having mishaps. You might have been chasing electric gremlins all weekend, your truck broke,
they're my
whatever.
own problems.
There's always somebody there that's willing to help you. There's always somebody willing to help you, and get you back out running.
Yeah.
And do whatever it takes to get you back out running. Like I can't count the amount of times, like, just at any G6 event, even at Axial Fest a couple years ago when I was there, you'd be sitting there, you might even just be changing a battery on trail, and everybody that's walking up on you, it's like, hey, you're all right? Everything okay? Do you need any parts? You need
Yeah.
tools? Everybody's always quick with help and trying to help you, and get your trucks back up and running, get you back out on the trail, and and then the camaraderie afterwards, and then if you have a good group of friends that you could bust chops with, one of my favorite things that I got to experience while I was still, doing the pitbull thing, uh, me and Brian Almeida went and stayed at Jim Rowe's house. And at the time, Jim Rowe was a Proline team
Hmm.
driver, and he invited us out to Vegas for one of his events. So Brian and I went out there. Meanwhile, I'm the pitbull
Right.
guy, and Jim Rowe was waist deep with Proline at the time. So it was leading up to that kind of stuff. People were getting a little nervous, like, well, what's going to happen? Like, you're going to Proline's house. And, well, we'll find out when I get there. There was rumor that there might have been some decoration with Proline flags and banners and stuff like that. But I would expect that, because if a Proline team driver during that time would have come here to my house, there's a good possibility you would have had a pit bull flag hanging over the bed you were
Hmm.
sleeping in. Like, just because that's the kind of fun that you get. Dan Wilson and I, we've had plenty of rib busting days, back from the time when he was running Voodoo, and then now that he's with Proline
Yeah.
as well. Been plenty of times. Everybody have a good camaraderie with that, and truth be told, I'm friends with every manufacturer out there. I'm friends with the guys from RC Four Wheel Drive, Proline, Voodoo. Matt Ottman and I, we've been more than enough times. We've been chatty, through Facebook Messenger, passing ideas back and forth.
Right.
So the camaraderie, again, coming back to my favorite part of this hobby being the people, because it's everybody's willing to help for the most part. I've experienced.
Yeah. I hear you. Sorry, I was reading comments. Sometimes it catches me. But
That's
all right,
cool.
so back at it. Do you compete in scale related comps? And if so, what one is your favorite one?
So far, hands down, I have to say the K&K event has been my favorite competition-based event that I've been to. The few years that I've done it, I think it's 2, maybe 3 years that I've been to it and done it. It's been insane, and it's gotten better and better and better each year, even with the weather, because every year that I've been there, it was crazy rain for at least one day.
Right.
Um, but the competition level, the courses, the different types of events that go on there, like, you cannot just bring a competition rig. You can't think that you could just show up there with like your your Sorka comp rig, and think that you're going to be able to just walk through everything,
Right.
because they have so many different events. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to try a couple different types of rigs, and every year that I go there, I bring something different, um, and I try my hands at something new. With like, for instance, the last year I went there, I ran a 3.85-inch tall tire in the 2.5 class, which you're allowed to run up to 4.75-inch
Right.
tall tire. So I basically ran a class one truck in a class 2.5, basically, comp setting. Um, on the actual course and the hill climb and the obstacle course, no problem. The mud pit, I think I maybe made it 10 feet. And the sled pull, yeah, thing wasn't even, I think I maybe made a half a
Right.
pull, something like that. So, but, everywhere else I excelled, which was great. And I finished, I think, 17th out of 100 and some odd people, class 2.5 with a sub 4-inch tire.
Yeah.
So might not have gotten first place, but to me, that's a pretty good
Well, yeah,
showing.
it feels like first place,
Um,
man. Uh,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially when you could pull some stuff. So it was good. But K&K, I think, hands down, for a scale type event. I've been to East Coast Scale Championships. I thoroughly enjoyed that. But I think that was more so just the people that were at that event, because unfortunately, the one that I went to, there was trouble with weather the day before when they set up the class one. So like, a lot of the courses got flooded out,
right.
and I remember that year too, a guy had dumped his class 3 rig in off of a cliff into like a 15-foot deep swimming hole that was there. So there was a bunch of uh, hurdles, I guess, to get over. But from what I've understood over the last couple of years, Matt Lockwood and his crew have been killing it, and made it like back to the way it should have been.
Right.
I've had very good fun at Motorama. It's a nice small event. I've been doing the Motorama's crawler event since I think 2008, 2009. The old Westpac guys from PA used to put on a good show there. So I've been competing in Motorama for quite some time. Um, Man, we used to have local scale comps back in the day, which were always fun just because it was once a month or twice a
Right.
month. But I think definitely for sure, I think right now K&K is probably my favorite scale event and definitely one that you'll see me back at next year for sure.
Awesome, man. I know, especially after talking to Mike a couple times, he definitely puts on a crazy killer event, and the dedication that he
Yeah.
puts into it is like awesome. It's
Oh
outstanding.
yeah,
So
yeah. And I mean, for all actuality, it's one of the easiest comps that I ever drive to because it's literally like I have to make two turns from my house to get to Mike's house. It's a 9 hour gap, but it's literally two turns to get to his house for me. Direct straight rod, and not to mention the amount of people. Like God, the people that come to that event. Uh, I mean, I know the couple times that I've been there, the amount of drivers, not the amount of trucks, classes that they have, but the amount of drivers that show up from everywhere, from all around the U.S. Like I know California's been there a handful of times, Texas, all over the central U.S., all over the East Coast. That guys from Florida have been there, guys from Canada have come, Hemi Storms come over from Norway, so there's definitely a great group of people that come. And man, there's some super talented drivers that show up, even more impressive. The amount of good quality drivers that show up.
right.
And then, everybody's running 3, 4 classes. So, you're having a total of like 600 to 800 entries, total trucks running, but, there's like 200 people there. You
Right.
know what I mean? So, it's definitely a super good time though. If anybody hasn't made it, they should definitely. It's one of those things I would compare it to a must see event, similar to like say Axial Fest or something to that effect. Like it's definitely a must do. You should not miss it. The Kirby's, they put on a great show. They have a great food truck that comes. They always have plenty of porta potties there, so all the creature comfort and amenities are great. And again, it goes back to the people, the amount of fun. Even when it's monsoon and we're still having fun. I remember one year there was a couple of kids that were running themselves, were running through the mud and sliding on their feet like Tom Cruise in the old Risky Business days and hitting a skate jump ramp and jumping over their friends that were laying underneath these ramps in the mud puddles. And then everybody's bringing out their go fast bashers and ripping them through the puddles and jumping
Oh yeah.
them and stuff. So it's not a dull moment. Like it's definitely never a dull moment on the K&K farm.
All right, man. So let's switch gears just a little bit and start talking about some RC trucks. And so I want to pose a question
Go
to
ahead.
anybody out there watching, even people on YouTube. You can comment it up. I'd love to hear from you. Uh, how many trucks have you built at this point? So how many out there have you built? And do you have any kicking around like right where you're at that you want to show off?
Absolutely. Um, Currently in my stable, uh, I believe we're sitting roughly around 10 or 11 scale trucks. Um, how many have I had total over the years? Uh, I'd say we're probably pushing 20 to 25 total different conglomerations that I've
Right.
had. I know, for instance, my one Unimog 6x6 that I have, the current status that that's in, it's the third variation of it. It's always been the same platform and it's always been the same body, but I've had 3 different types of axles under it, 3 different types of suspension. And this, the way it's set up now, is my absolute favorite it's ever been. Super fun to drive. Yeah, I'd say probably 20 to 25 total scale rigs that I've had in different variations. And the crazy thing is, I know for a fact I've only ever sold 2. So every other rig that I've had that I've run and people have either competed against me with
Right.
or have been out on trails with me, I still have them. They're just broken down in parts, or parts might be moved to another rig that I built based off of something that was on that truck. Um, this one here is probably my baby. This one here is my Metal Masher Truggy, my Chevy Clod Base Truggy. This thing was built by Blake Livelisberger or Livelisberger. I forget his name, but I know he goes by the name of Metal Masher. I met Blake. He was one of the guys from Western PA that was running with the crew that did the first Motorama events, and he had a Toyota comp rig that he built with metal body panels. And I mean, this is going back for like comp crawling.
Right.
This wasn't for scale crawling. So when I first saw him show up with that thing, I was like, whoa, wait a minute, what is that? I was messing around. I think that year I might have had, I think I was running my Kyosho Rock Force, back then. So seeing that thing versus my worm-driven Kyosho rig, I was like, man, I have to get on some of that action. So this is going back, like I said, 2007, 2008, roughly, when I first met him. And I bought this body, this particular clod-based body with a smaller chassis off of a kid in my local club, and I contacted Blake immediately. And I think it took roughly, the initial build took roughly about 9 months, 8, 9 months, something like that. But the truck is absolutely my favorite truck. I've never even thought about getting rid of it. Never, like, there's no money that you'd be able to pay me to get this thing out of my hands. I have given it back to him once for a rebuild, and he added the cage, the exo cage over the cab, just because I whooped the shit out of this thing. Like, I wheeled it hard. This thing's been all over the world. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. This thing has been with me all over the world. So, I mean, geez, my truggy cage here is bent, like this thing has gotten worked. So I've sent it back to him. I've had body work redone to it from him. I've had more cage work added to it. I've changed the suspension. I've changed the axles. But this is absolutely my baby. This is my favorite truck. This one here, it's funny because you ever hear people say nobody puts baby in the corner. Well, this truck has spent more time in the front seat than some people in my car. So, just to give you an idea, like that, this is my baby. Another one of my most recent favorite builds. This one here, this is my Unimog that I had Burt Melchner from A&M Garage build.
Right.
This build simply started because of Jeremy Kilborn, and I know he's watching. He had picked up the MST C-Max or CFX, the MST CFX chassis with the portal axles. He picked it up, and 2 years ago, he showed up at Motorama with it. And I saw it, and I said, man, that thing would be perfect. I've been sitting on this cab. I have a 6x6 with this same cab on it. I've been sitting on this cab probably since 2008, maybe 2009. I bought it off of RCC, for spare parts for my 6x6 because, it's not like you could go right down to your local hobby shop and pick up this Korean Unimog cab.
Correct.
So it's been sitting, and I've been talking with Burt Melchner. It was something that I once I figured out what I was going to do with this build, I knew Burt was the guy to have to do it because of his Unimogs that he's stomped the shit out of everybody with. You want to talk about a Unimog driver? That guy is the Unimog builder, Unimog driver. He's the Unimog whisperer. So this one here, I got, it's basically a stock CFX platform. It's just I'm running it in reverse.
Nice.
So where the 6BT is, there's actually my motor is under that. So everything is just spun around in reverse. Burt really tricked this thing out. He gave me some flip forward cab mounts. So I got all my electronics and battery tray mounts under there. My spares come off. Fully functioning rig. And this thing is a super blast to drive. It's super stable. And it's super fun. And it turns a lot of heads. It's super bright. I have a ton of lights on it. So it's really hard to miss it. It's way more fun to look at during the day than it is at night, because if you're trying to look at it at night, your chances are you're just going to see spots for a few minutes. So then I have, it's in the garage currently. I'm not going to jump up and get it, but I do have another A&M Garage build. He built my Yoda clone. Okay. I have a 94 Toyota on 1-ton axles. that I currently am running 42 Pitbull Rockers on. And Bert built, I mean, this thing's, the only difference is the body year. That's the only difference. Everything else, Bert nailed. It's scary how cool it looks. Even down to Jonathan Baskin's 3D printing my rear tail lights to be exactly the ones that I have on my actual Toyota. So, Bert Melchner has probably produced my two most recent favorite builds that I have currently. They're the ones that I've been driving the most, other than my Truggy, and my Chevy
Right.
Truggy. And then my Unimog, this thing here, I'm gonna flip the screen on it. And then my 6x6 Unimog. This is still one of my most favorite builds that I've had. This thing got built back in 2007. It's based off of a K2 6x6 chassis. And again, the Korean Unimog cab. This is an old T-Max Nitro truck front bumper that I've been running on the front of this thing for, probably the whole time I've had the truck. I got the Blackwell axles by RC four-wheel drive under it. I'm running a I-beam suspension. It's leaf sprung. It's just a really rad truck. I'm running an old RC four-wheel drive R2 trans in it with an 8-tooth pinion on a 55-turn Novak crawler motor in it. That's all coming out though. I have a Castle system that I'm going to be putting in this thing, to liven it up. But these three are probably, I would say, my most favorite builds. I do have a really super nice 2.2 build that I have. That the chassis was built by, God, I can't remember what Donnie's last name is off the top of my head, but he goes by Bent Metal Customs. Donnie Fleming. He's a California native. He built me a really super nice 2.2 Bent Metal Customs Silverado Chevy Truggy. That Brian Almeida exclusive RC, I mean, completely to the nth degree scaled this truck out. I have a full interior, 4 seats, every light in the world you could think of. I have a light up tack, GPS display, CB radio. I have a recessed light bar in the front grille, full light buckets display up front. I have a U4 bar in the back, like spare tire. It's hooked up. That truck's hooked up too. That's my Bronco. I have an early Bronco. It's one of my oldest trucks that I've had too. That's my other 2.2 base platform rig. That was the last one that I drove a year and a half ago. But that one was built by a cat named John Zorn, who goes by also the name JMZ6, another Pennsylvania native. He does some really killer builds as well. He did an old Chevy clone of my 1-to-1 truck back when it still had the square body nose on it without the trophy truck flares. And he built that thing. That truck saw a lot of mileage. I'd say that probably has a good, I'd say probably close to 100 miles on that truck, easily.
Yeah.
So I know that my Chevy Truggy here on the table that Blake built, I know that I have close to 600 hours on this truck, just via the use off of my radio.
Right.
I think the last time I think it was at like 589 hours, something like that.
It's crazy how much it can add up, man. So like,
oh,
the thing.
Wait, if you think about it, like, how many times you ever just go and run it for 15 minutes?
Honestly, man, I do it quite a bit because I'll just do it on my way home from work.
Do you really?
I do usually less than half an hour. If I do it like during the week when I'm driving home from work, I'll have it in the car. I'll just pull over. I always pick a spot that's like right next to the road, so you can just pull over, park, get out, throw down the truck, run a few lines, hop back in, and get home. And
I'm gonna start doing that then. I'm gonna have to check it out because like even locally around here, I've been starting to just hike a lot more. Just try and look for more spots to go to.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like I've been going to a lot of local state parks by my house that I know might have water retaining areas or like a water dam area, something like that. Might be a 1.5 mile hike back. Hang out, burn a couple battery packs, another 1.5 mile hike out. So I'll put a good 3 hours, 4 hours on a truck. That new Axial, the SCX 10.2 Blazer, I've already logged 28 hours on that thing. And I've only had it for a little bit over a month. That truck is an absolute blast to drive too.
So, all right, man. let's shift gears just a touch and talk about some things that maybe if someone's new tuning in, someone just happens to catch the YouTube rerun, or they catch this if it gets shared on a page or something. What about like some necessary building tools for a newbie into the hobby?
Building tools. Well, I'll say this. My absolute favorite tool is the body reamer. So I would definitely suggest the body reamer. I've probably invented a solid 50 to 60 different uses for the body reamer over the last 15 to 20 years of RC modeling. Since the nitro days till the scale stuff that we've been going into lately. So I would definitely say a body reamer kit. Um, Definitely a good set of Allen drivers.
Right.
Like that makes a world of difference when you're building anything. Good tools is always a must. Um, you could probably get away with maybe some smaller, maybe I don't. Would you consider them maybe jeweler hammers, but like smaller, like maybe a small weighted ball peen or something if you're going to be working with any smaller types of
Right.
metal. A little. You always need a little persuasion, so I think maybe a smaller hammer. Um, I think another thing is good lighting. That's a huge thing to have, I think, when you're building stuff, because I know in the past I remember dealing with eye strain, fatiguing, just from not having good lighting in a work area, or not good enough uh, ambient color for the light to be beneficial to
Right.
you. If you have a dark room and you're trying to work with a smaller light, I try to work in a bright room with maybe minimal lighting, just so this way all of the ambient light off the walls would help generate more lighting. So I would say that, and a good mat, a good work mat, a pit mat, definitely super important to have too. This way you're not chasing screws and hardware all over your floor. Um, and I think for people who are going to get into more of the customization and fabrication end of
Right.
things, a really good torch kit. I think that's super important to have. A good grinder, um, a good torch, good cordless grinder if that's your ticket. Or definitely a Dremel, at least a
Oh
Dremel,
yeah.
especially for working with smaller tubing. Um, yeah, I'm a big fan of just good tools, good proper tools, and good work environments, good
Yeah.
lighting. I think that's the most important stuff, and good knowledge. And don't be afraid to ever ask questions. That's another huge thing too. So many people are too proud to ask for help. You know, and that I've learned that lesson the hard way myself, just because I'm stubborn. Spend 12 hours on something stupid, and then I ask somebody their opinion or a little tip, and 3 seconds later I'm up and
Right.
running. You know, if I would have just made a left back at Albuquerque, none of this would have happened.
Yeah. So, and I think one of the things that is the most valuable that you just said, and I'm not knocking any of the tool things because that was the initial question, but don't be afraid to ask for help. Um, I think oftentimes, and this is kind of going out there to all of you who've been in this a while, like the guys who are tuning in and watching this, they found this, and most of you because you've been in this a long time, or you've known
Mhm.
Desmond for a long time, or whatever. And people on YouTube, whoever you are, guys, if someone's asking questions, like don't blow them up. That's all I'm asking. Like
Yeah, for
help them out,
real.
or move on.
I think,
Like, uh, it,
yeah. Listen, really, the only stupid question is the one you never ask.
exactly. And so I
So,
I love
I mean,
I love seeing new questions, and I try to like, you get the same question like a million times that pops up. I only ever answer it if I'm one of the first like five people. If I'm not the first five people, I just keep
yeah,
breezing through because somebody else has always already covered it. And so
yeah, absolutely.
I just try to spread that whole positive piece of what's going on and be that great community that we all are. So so I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that 100%. Questions are important. And it's even more fun too if you get to maybe bust some chops while you're answering, you know, because
Oh yeah.
let's face it, we all like doing it. So
Yeah.
it's human nature to do it. So,
Oh yeah. I love the going back and forth. It's a good time. So we talked about a bunch of tools. I know we kind of already covered this one, but like if you could pick one tool that you cannot live without, while you're working on your RCs? What is it going to be? I have a prediction.
Well, I mean, obviously the obvious go-to with that would be the body reamer, but truth be told, I'm going to say it's the box wrench, the four-way wrench.
Okay.
I keep them on keychains too. That you ever meet Mike George, the Munster's RC Garage?
I don't think I've ever met him. No.
All right, Mike George and I, we rode back seat with Brian Almeida a couple years ago. We went down to the Ultimate Scale Truck event in Florida. And while Mike and I were in the back seat driving down, I was building a set of portal axles. I brought one of my magnet mats, and I was building a set of portal axles in the back of Brian's truck. I had my little head torch on, and we left my house, I think, around midnight. Right. I built a pair of axles between here in Florida. So while I was doing it, I couldn't find. I'd misplaced my four-way wrench. Like it had fallen off my mat, it had gotten underneath me. So Mike pulls out his keys. He's like, no problem. And he hands me his keys, and he's got a four-way wrench on it. I look at it. He drilled a hole right through the middle of the damn thing and just put a key ring on it. I said, man, I should have known better. I should have done that myself. So since that day in that truck, I have since always had a box wrench on my keychain. So, that's one thing I think I would never leave home without, in terms of a mandatory tool for mini trucking.
Can I tell you, I literally never, ever use that wrench. I have a different driver that is that size, and I only use that. I don't know.
But see, my problem with the drivers, I can never get them in the place of where I need the box wrench. That's one of my biggest issues with the drivers. Like, I do have a good set of MIP nut drivers, but with the length of them, sometimes I just can't get them in there. That little box wrench always fits in perfect.
Needle nose, man. That's where it's at.
Oh, and the needle nose, too. I like the angled needle nose,
know.
Like where they have the angled tip.
All right, sidebar conversation. I apologize to everybody watching, but I didn't even realize, I didn't realize the angled needle nose existed. Yep, make fun of me, whatever. But I was working on my car one time, and there was just this one clamp that I couldn't get. I went to the hardware store, and I'm walking around. What in the world can I use to get this? And I found this glorious pair of these really, really long needle nose with the bend on them, and I was changed forever. So it was awesome.
Listen, I have a pair. I have short ones. I have little jeweler ones, and then I have ones for my one-to-one. And I probably have the exact same pair that you're talking about. They're about 16, 18 inches long, roughly. Yeah, I have a set of those as well. Hey, Heidi. I see that Jeremy Kilborn's wife is saying hello. Good evening, lady. How are you?
Awesome.
Wes Braswell, too. That dude, he's a good guy, too. You got to check him out if you don't know him. He's a really good builder as well. He got great videos on there on the YouTube. He's a real good guy.
Yeah, I noticed he's, instead of doing build threads, he's doing video series. It's great.
Yeah, which is great. Very, very helpful. He's good, too, man. That Jeep that he just built is pretty nice. He built that, it's like a prototype. I forget what it's called, but it looks like a Jeep Commando.
The Chief, right? I think, maybe.
Yeah, it's like a light blue Jeep.
Yeah. I'm sure he'll tune in and say exactly what it is.
Just chimed in there and hello, so hopefully he'll tell us what it was. I can't remember. It's like the Commander or the Comanche or something, but it's a prototype. It was pretty good.
Anyway.
What's up, Nick?
So, again, we're going to shift some gears here, and let's talk about for a long time you were with Pitbull. Can you tell us about some of the experiences with Pitbull and in that whole era?
Man, the 9 years that I spent with Pitbull RC was phenomenal. The experiences, first and foremost, the amount of experiences, I don't even really know where to start. One of the coolest things was being a part of it.
Right.
Because when I first found out about Pitbull RC, I'd already been running their one-to-one tires on my full-size truck for a few years. My daughter was just born 13 years ago, and I think it was maybe a month prior to her being born was when I got my first set of one-to-one tires from Pitbull, but they didn't come out making RC tires until I think it was 2000. 2010, 2009, something like that. They came out with the original XOR, and shortly after that, uh, they had gotten a set of prototypes, and it was shortly after the prototypes came out was when I got involved with
Right.
them. The experiences, man, dude, I got to go to Taiwan, I got to go to China, I've traveled around the U.S. I've been to California, I've been to RCX, I've been to Axial Fest, all pertaining to Pitbull. I've been to Horizon Fest. I've been to a bunch of events because of
Yeah.
Pitbull. Um, learning how to make tires, learning the different rubber compounds, learning how to read blueprints. Like that was an experience in itself because when I first got brought on, I was only just coming in as like a product
Right.
tester, just somebody to help out, like testing the prototypes and stuff. But I remember one of the first days that I was involved with them after sending or signing over an NDA. Uh, I started getting blueprints, and it was like looking at hieroglyphs to me because I have a high school education, but I'm a tattooer, man. I'm a tattooer. That's it. So another good buddy of mine that I made through the mini truck community, James Caruso, Turbo Fest. He's a monster behind the wheel. He's an engineer. So I put in a call to him. He had come down to my tattoo shop one night, and we sat up, drank a couple of good beers together, and he taught me how to read blueprints. So that was a great experience by itself because now I'm a little smarter because of it,
Right.
Um, so that's been great. The experiences behind making some, and I know you're a Voodoo guy, but making some of the best tires that are on the RC market to date. I know I've been a responsible party in
Yeah.
that. I've experienced some highs and lows with making tires too, because there was a couple times, and a lot of people don't know this, but a couple times there were some glitches in the matrix. One of us might miss a specific number, and then the prototypes show up and they're wrong.
Right.
So then panic sets in because you're like, holy shit, is this my fault? Like, what did I do? Now we're gonna have to spend all this money on the molds to repair the molds. So there was a lot of like emotional battles that you would deal with yourself just because you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing and making the right
Right.
product, you know what I mean? And to keep up with the times of the market was another big thing. So it was nice having feelers out with different friends in the RC community to find out, like, oh, hey, Axial might be coming out with this new buggy or this new rock truck, or, Horizon might be coming out with something through
Right.
Viterra. Oh, well, cool. Let's start seeing some spy shots, find out what kind of size tire comes stock on that truck. Well, okay, cool. So if that truck comes with something that's 4.5, let's base our next market number around the 4.5 mark, or
Yeah.
5 inch or whatever it is that people were looking for. And then learning the compounds, which, that is something that we had spent a lot of time doing. I have had almost every company's tire here in my house. Um, I know at one point in time, I sold a box with 9 sets of RC four-wheel drive 1.9 tires that were more than broken in. Like I've put a lot of time on a bunch of companies' other tires, Proline, Voodoo. I've put a lot of time on other companies' tires to find out exactly what we're going up
Right.
against. So the amount of time that I've spent testing our tires versus other companies' tires, I've put a lot of wheel time behind both. Because I had to see how they would work on the same rig, comparably speaking. So like my Chevy Truggy from Blake, I would run a couple packs through on a Voodoo set of tires and then run them through, with RC four-wheel drive or a Proline. And then I would put a Pitbull tire back on it just so I could get the feel for all of the tires that I was testing that
Right.
specific day. So those were a lot of great experiences.
So
Some of the memorable stuff.
can I
Go
ask you a
ahead.
question? So like anybody from the
Sure.
outside looking in is gonna most likely have this question the same that I do. So I know you were a team driver. I know
Mhm.
you were more involved than being a team driver. How involved in all of this stuff were you with the RC tire stuff?
Well, I'll tell you this: every tire that's out on the market currently went through my head, my hands. Um, I've had the first prototype of every one except for the original 1.9
Okay.
Rock Beast. Tim Samuels got the first set of prototypes for them. Uh, Tim Samuels, Tim Samuels was my right hand man for a long time. For a long time, he's been with the team just as long as
Yeah.
I was. I think maybe a week or two shy of that. So Tim was my go-to guy for a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff. If there was numbers that I needed help with, or if there was ideas that I needed to bounce off of somebody, Tim Samuels was always my go-to guy. The War Pig, he's an absolute, genuine great man, super knowledgeable, great
Yep.
builder, um, amazing driver. You know, just all around, I can't say enough great stuff about him. So Tim, you know, when he got the first batch of the OG 19 prototypes, his came with no numbers, no markings, no nothing on them. You know, my first batch of prototypes came missing some details that were not included in the original mold. So it wasn't until probably the third batch of prototypes where I actually had like the
Right.
official set with, you know, all the lettering and stuff. But regardless, every tire that's ever been developed through Pitbull Tire up until they have two that are coming out. I'm not going to get into sizes or styles or anything like that, but there's two more that are coming out that I helped with, you know, but it was getting closer towards the end of the time that I was there, so I didn't really develop much with it. But everything up until I think the most recent is the 19 Braven Berserker. This is the most recent release. This was the last one that I had my hands in physically,
Right.
directly. All the wheels, any of the wheels that we ever did. There's stuff that we worked on that hasn't been released yet that are still
Right.
coming. You know, there was a lot of stuff that was still under development with us that's still coming to market. All that stuff through my hands. They might have been designed or developed through me, or I assisted on the design and development of it. I've done prototype testing on everything that's still, you know, projected to come out. So I worked on every project up until probably I'm going to say 6 months
Okay.
ago, 7 months ago, something like that, was when I kind of started tapering off with helping with projects, and I kind of just kind of laid on the lower side of town, getting ready for my
Yep.
move. So, but yeah, everything that's on the market today, servo horns, all the oils. We tried developing grease at one point in time. It's just going to be too costly. The grease that we were coming out was it was a nano diamond technology grease. So there was nano diamond particle in the
Right.
grease. Uh, for like a little 3 ounce container, you were looking at like almost $40, you know, but that 3 ounce container has lasted me, man, I think we got our first batch of that stuff in like 2013. And I'm still working off of my first two 3 ounce containers that I had because we had gotten the pro edition and then like your standard
Right.
edition. But you know, if you run your fingers like this, you'll feel the granules in the grease. You know, and when you work your fingers apart like this, you'd see like the little ghosts and the spider webs coming off of it and stuff. But more importantly, I service my axles once a
Yeah.
year. You know, and we go on through mud, snow, water, sand, dirt, whatever. Every year I pull my axles apart, they're just as clean as when I put them together last time.
Fair enough.
Grease is still there. You know, it's not broken down because there's no metal to metal contact with the gears. That the little nano diamonds keep that little barrier of space open between the gear sets. So you never get heat from the
Hmm.
gears because there's never any metal to metal contact. So all that spacing doesn't break down your grease. You never get hot. It never gets hot. You know, like I have in every truck that I've showed you today, the grease is in the transmissions. I pull apart my servos and I pack the little computer board with
Right.
it. My transmissions, everything anything I build gets that grease, and I've been running it since 2013 with zero issues. And I wish that was one of the biggest regrets is not getting that to market, you know.
Right.
But everything else that we've done, man, we tried getting tools, we tried doing pit tools, but you know everybody's coming out with them, everybody's having them. MIP kind of via you know Vanquish, they all they make some of the best tools. So like to try and compete with that stuff, like ice skating uphill in an avalanche. There's certain things you pick your battles. Uh,
So
still coming down the market. That they still have to do, that they're still working on, still ironing bugs out. So yeah, look for more stuff to come out from them. They still have a laundry list of things that they want to do, and with any luck, they'll do.
right.
So.
All right, man. So let's change it a little bit. One of the biggest questions that I had to ask you, and when I talked to you earlier this week, I asked you about it anyway because I wanted to know. So one of the things that I know you were a part of was the video when I think it was the XLs came out. And so there was a video, it was kind of like this super intense like interview with you and then the truck running, like that whole marketing scheme. That piece, that just that chunk, like really, really caught me hard. And although, yes, I am a Voodoo guy, I've had pit bulls in my past, and I've run other tires. I've been all over the place, and I just pick what works for me in the moment, in my driving style.
100%.
And so, I just want to know a little bit about that video. And when you and I started getting into the story of it, like I was like, man, I have to ask that question. Like, it's cool.
Yeah.
So,
well, the video, like I started telling you the other day. One of the biggest gripes that people were hitting us with back in the day about the original 1.9 Rock Beast was it was too short. Everybody was complaining about its height. It's too short, it's too short. They don't clean out easy. The lugs are too close together. But what people are lacking to understand, that tire was 100% scale. There was no variations in what we did with Pitbull tires. Like, we took tires that were as big as 47 inches tall and brought them down to 4 inches. No other company's doing that, So we're making uber super scale tires. There's no variations to it. So everybody complained, too short, lugs are too close, but yet there's people all over the world not having problems with them. People all over the U.S. not having problems. So everybody was always asking, when are you going to build a taller version of it? When are you going to do the XL? When are you going to do it? So we just kind of put it off, and we started working on everything but the Rock Beast XL. We did the 1.9 Growler. We did the 1.9 Mad Beast. We started getting stuff together to start working with the Braven line, which is an offshoot of Pitbull 1-to-1. And, by the time we were actually ready to do the 1.9 XL, Proline had already come out with their Flatiron XL. They came out with their Super Swamper XL. RC 4-wheel drive had already flooded the market with everything they had, between their IROCs and the Mickey Thompsons and their versions of the Super Swampers and stuff. Everybody had already brought their tire to the market. And same thing with Voodoo. Voodoo came out with the 4.75 KLR. So, okay, now we know exactly what everybody else did. Now's the time. So went out, bought everybody else's tire. I started testing them. Then we're like, okay, well, listen, if we're going to start changing this up, and it was around the time that we had started using the Alien compound rubber. So we decided we were going to do tire net. We decided we were going to modify the tire, open up some lug spacing just to make it a little bit more aggressive, and then obviously make it taller. Right. Well, when that happened, I had decided at that point in time, we have to now step into a promo video. I had reached out to a gentleman who's local to me, who's a video director, and he does a lot of work with schools. So I reached out to him and I said, Dre, listen, I need a promotional video made, and I need it to be somewhat dark, somewhat dreary, somewhat mysterious, kind of, edgy. Because, when you think of a pit bull, that's kind of, you're not sure if the dog's going to bite you, if it's going to lick you to death. People have that kind of edgy vibe to it. Plus, when we were leading up to the release of the 19XL, I had started throwing the post around with the explosion, the nuclear explosion with the Pitbull logo in the back. So I kind of was feeding him that too, telling him like, listen, you're kind of working with like this post-apocalyptic
Right.
thing. Well, the setting kind of worked perfect because behind my tattoo shop in Toms River, New Jersey here, there's a rubble pile. You know, it basically looks like a bomb had gone off in the backyard behind the shop. So that's where we did all the shooting, and we have a cobblestone basement. My tattoo shop's pre-Civil War, the building, so it's like late 17, early 1800s. I have a cobblestone basement that's bone dry, so that's where we shot the whole video. We did it in my shop in the basement, and then we did some mini trucking out behind the
That's
building.
awesome.
Uh, when we started doing it, trying to translate between Dre and myself, like trying to go back and forth with his idea versus my idea, I was like, you know what? You're an artist of your own medium. When people come to me, they tell me, I trust you, you do whatever you feel is right. So I did the exact same thing. I said, listen, you know what you're doing. You tell me where you want me to sit, and I'll
Yep.
listen. So that's what we did. And, you know, that whole video shoot probably took maybe 40 minutes,
No way.
like to turn that out into what you see on YouTube now. And there's two parts. He has a second one that he released as well. Um, but the first one, when he showed me the original one, boy, I'll never forget. It gave me chills. I mean, like the chills stopped like somewhere here on the base of my skull. Like, I mean, I was just like, whew, man, you did such a good job. And I got lucky too, because one of the guys that works for me at the time let me use some of his music from his
Right.
band to use in the video. So didn't have to worry about any kind of copyright infringements or trademark, you know, worrings with YouTube and music licensing agreements and all that stuff. So that worked out in our benefit as well. But I have every intention on using Dre again in the future for other projects that I have going on. So look for more video work from him. And now the cool thing is he's actually into the mini trucking
That's awesome.
because of the video. Yeah, he just recently, him and his son just recently got the TRX 4s by Traxxas. So they've been having a blast. I laced them up with some Pitbull tires a few months ago. So they got their Traxxas TRX 4s laced up, and they're having a good time with them now. So you'll see more videos from those guys in the future with me and them for future projects that we have. So
Well, great, man. I don't know. That was one of the things, like, out of forever, like, it just stands out. So it was so different at the time, and it was on the
that's
spot.
what
Like,
we wanted.
applause for you.
Yeah, that's what we wanted. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like I said, it was pretty cool because the boss man, he had no idea. You know, I just told him, I said, listen, I'm going to shoot a pretty cool video for this. He's like, hey, whatever. So when it finally happened and it came out, I remember sending him the link. I was on my way home actually from a water park the first day that the link was finished. So I remember pulling over. My daughter and my son was home from the Coast Guard at the time, so I pulled over and the three of us sat behind the wheel of my car and watched it on the side of the road. And I remember sending the link out to a couple of the guys in the tight circle, you know, just so they get the idea what was going on with it too. And we were just smiles for miles for days when that video came out. And then when we finally went live with it, the response was off the chain. Like, and still, this is, you know, probably 3 years
Oh, yeah.
later, and you know, I'm finding out now that people are still appreciating
Oh, yeah.
it. So it just proves that we did the right thing at the right time.
No,
you know,
it's
which
it's
is
definitely been a while, but like it's one of those things that just clicks in my brain, and like that was like that's the image, like so. Yeah,
stuck in
it's
it.
there. So, all right. So let's skip ahead just a little bit, and let's talk about what is one thing that you will never ever leave off of a scale build.
Oh, wow. Hmm. Trying to look. I'm looking between the three trucks that I have here on the table to see what I have between the three of
So
them.
I'll give
That
you a couple minutes to think. Well, I'll just tell you what my answer is. So my answer is
oh,
that I will never ever leave out an interior. Looking into the windows of a scale truck and seeing nothing for me just doesn't do it. Whether the truck already has an
yeah.
interior or I have to build it or I have to find one and manipulate it, There will always be
Yeah.
something in there.
I think I'm going to probably agree with you on that because that's one thing that the three of these trucks all share. My Truggy, I have two knee up driver and passenger, full interior seats, and both Unimogs have full interior with full drivers. I could have passengers if I wanted. I just only have drivers in them
Right.
currently. So I think definitely interior and definitely lights.
Okay.
Definitely lights. You know,
See, I don't have the love for the lights,
um,
man. It sucks my energy and it doesn't give me enough scale points. I don't know.
oh yeah, I mean, listen, I don't do it for scale points. I like driving at night
Yeah.
too. You know, that's another big thing that I like personally doing. I have my home course here. I run a lot at night. You know what I mean? Like I get home from work normally around 9:30, 9:45, 10 o'clock at night. I'll have dinner and then I'll take my dogs out around midnight and I'll stay out there till 2 in the morning. You know, so like that's that. And then, you know, if I go to a G6 event
Yeah.
or, you know, if you're going someplace, like we had at the Ultimate Scale Truck event in Florida a couple years ago, you know, a group of us got together and just kind of drove around the campground at
Right.
night. You know, like that kind of stuff is why I would use the lights. Not every one of my trucks has lights, but I know all of them do have interior, you know, so that's definitely one thing I would definitely agree with you on is the interior.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll go with the interior. That's that and
Yeah, I
yeah.
wasn't trying to feed you an answer. I've asked that.
No, I mean it's true because every one of my trucks
Yeah.
has an interior.
I've asked that of
You know,
almost everybody and no one's given me that answer. And I'm like, that just
yeah,
feels like for me, that's what I have to have. I don't know. I don't know how you can do
yeah,
it without it.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that. I definitely agree with
yeah.
you.
So let me ask you this question. Are you a Facebook fan or are you like a forums fan? And why would you choose one over the
I'm
other?
both. I'm
Okay.
both, and I'm both, and I'll give you quick, easy
Yeah.
reasons. The one of the reasons I love the forums is because of people who are not social media friendly. You know, there's a lot of people out there that are extremely talented builders and fabricators who stay completely in the shadows and they stay off of social media, Facebook, Instagram, etc. So you still need the forums for them. You still need the forums. Scale Builders Guild. I remember there's, uh, RC Four Wheel Drive used to have a forum back in the day. I know we used to have a local forum for our local clubs. RCC obviously is
Right.
still around. Uh, you know, I thoroughly enjoy going to both. Like, I mostly stay on the Scale Builders Guild and the RC Crawler forums for any knowledge that I might not know or need to acquire. I love Facebook and I love Instagram for the ease of staying social media relevant and the ease of posting and the ease of staying in contact. And plus the amount of people that you are reaching that might not know about Scale Builders Guild or might not know about RC Crawler
Yeah.
yet. So it's just another medium for people to get information. So I think both of them are super important. One of my favorite things about the team Pitbull when I was managing it, you know, we had guys that kind of specifically just stayed on the forums, like Tim Samuels and Devlin Shipley. Uh, you know, those two guys primarily stayed on RC Crawler and the Scale Builders Guild. So those guys handled all of the social media for the forum boards.
Right.
And then the rest of our guys, some of them might have excelled just at Instagram or might have only had Instagram and not Facebook, you know, or some of them might have had both. So we had, you know, like little segments of our team that excelled in different areas. So, okay, we had these guys that were good for forums, these guys who were good for Instagram, these guys here are good for Facebook. And then there was a couple of us that were good at all
Right.
of it. So we had most of the angles covered. And plus, like, we had a lot of guys that were very competitive. You know, we have, excuse me, a bunch of guys are very competitive. So they would travel around and, you know, they would go and compete at large events, large scale events. Mike Duncan, Gene Boyd, and Chris Zemek, they did a lot of U4 racing. So they would go a lot of U4 racetracks. Tim Samuels, Devlin Shipley, those guys, man, they would go to Scale Nats and just
Yeah.
crush it. You know, I remember Tim would send me pictures with you could barely see Tim because of all the trophies that were in front of him and his rigs, and then here's his little head behind everything. Because he would just have a huge display of trophies in front of him. I remember he came out to the East Coast Scale Championships a few years ago and swept everything he was in. Like first time out on East Coast soil, and he's crushing it. That guy, he's a machine though. He could drive a shoebox with square wheels on it and still crush it. You know, but yeah. So I think they're both necessary. Both forums and social media are definitely important for and I mean, if you think about it, I think that's part of the reason why the explosion of the sport too, because if you think about it, if you're going to the forum specifically, it's like you or me going to the forum specifically. Right. But if you think about it like this, on Facebook, how many of your friends are actually just mini truckers? Like I have a ton of clients that follow me on Facebook and Instagram for tattooing. And they'll come into my shop and tell me like, oh, I was thinking about maybe getting a mini truck. I see all these pictures and videos you post. It looks like a ton of fun. I'd love to try it with my son or my daughter or my brother or my sister or whoever. They're not going to be the ones that are going to RC Crawler, but because they're comfortable with me or they're comfortable with you and they know that you're doing it, and they're going to pick your ear, they're going to pet my ear and say, hey, like, what can I get into it for? Like, what would you suggest I get started with? Like, that's why one of the things I think is great about Instagram and Facebook, because you're reaching men, women, and children alike of all walks of life that probably hadn't known anything about mini trucking prior to being on Facebook or Instagram because of you, me, or whoever it is that they're following. And one of my favorite questions I always get asked by my customers, where do you park them all? They think they're actually my real trucks that I'm in driving. And I'm like, what? Oh, I just keep them in my garage at my house. So people, well, how big is your damn garage? Well, it's a single car garage. Why? Where the hell do you keep them on? I said, I just hang them on the wall. What do you mean you hang them on the wall? I said, man, they're this big. They're little toy trucks. Man. So I have to tell my customers, if you don't see a license plate on it, it's not real. Or it's not a full-size truck. So always look for a license plate.
I mean, we can take care of that. So I'm just saying. So.
Well, you see, that it's funny. As soon as I heard you say that before, I'm like, man, I should really start messing with all of my customers and put license plates on everything, because then they'd be screwed up. They'd really be screwed up. They wouldn't know what was going on.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna shift things again just a little bit here, and thank everybody who's still in. I know it's getting late for a lot of people who are out there, but if you're leaving or whatever, you got to go to sleep. I get that. You guys all probably work early in the morning, but you want to pick it back up on YouTube, that'd be amazing. You're going to want to finish the rest of it. Des, this conversation has been amazing, and we're not stopping. So if people are leaving, they're leaving. I'll see you guys later, but I'm not done. So
I'll keep going. Good.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about, I know you've built a course at your house. You talked about it a little bit. Yeah. Does it have a name, and do you have a favorite portion of it?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
We haven't finalized the name. The course here has been here for quite some time, actually, and it's gone through a bunch of changes. We used to do comp course crawling here. My house, like back when the Garden State Radio Control Rock Crawling Club was big and in effect through the early 2000 years, we had a lot of comp crawling here, and we were capable to get all three classes done: 1.9, 2.2, and super. And then after I got with Pitbull, I kind of just threw the whole comp course crawling thing out. Right. Like I still have my rigs, but I just got rid of the idea of even using them ever again. So I base it more towards scale. So back in the day, it was first nicknamed Mount Des, like MT Des. But now, recently it got called the Scale Shack, and I think that's where we're going to keep it. I've been a fan of the Scale Shack. I think it's just kind of a cool little nickname for it. It just kind of goes with everything, especially with what goes on in my backyard. Now, I haven't been posting any recent progress shots of it because it's been under construction for a little bit. I do have August 5th, or 4th and 5th, next weekend. Right. I have a Mason team coming with a couple of Spray Creek guns. We do have water crossings. I have utilized quite a bit of old playground slides that have been wrapped in cement. We have a couple of kiddie pools here that are buried underground and are, wrapped with cement. I have a couple of man-made structures. We have a couple of good piles of dirt out back that have good obstacles on and through them. Jonathan Sullivan has built me a kick-ass cover bridge that's going to be used out here. We're also having a gutter company come here to change my gutter configuration on the back of my house. And we're going to run one of the gutter down pipes off into the course for, to help just fill the water,
Right.
Like the water holes and stuff. But what we're going to do with where the downspout of the gutter comes from the house out onto the course, we're going to build basically what would look like an old train trestle.
Sweet.
And the water pipe will be hung up on that, and then it'll just have a little downspout to run into the main sections of the course. So there'll be some function. It's not going to just be all form.
Right.
Brian Almeida, an exclusive RC, he's going to come here. He's got little hazard lights that'll work off of solar panels. So we do have some underground tunnels here. I have a couple stretches of corrugated sewer pipe that are, I think I have an 8-foot strip, a 6-foot, and I believe a 10-foot strip. They're all buried. So we're going to have like little flashing yellow hazard lights that'll work inside the tunnels.
That's awesome.
There'll be a bunch of scale signs. I've already been outfitted. Brian has already made me. I have 60 gates. And if you've never seen any of the gates that Brian has made for any scale events, these things are phenomenal. They're spring loaded. They have a base. He makes the bases big enough to where you could set a screw through it. So you could screw it. What we normally do is we'll put a screw into the bottom and then stick the screw into the dirt. So, but you have a spring loaded base. I'm going to try and see if I got something here. I'll use a chopstick. So, there'll be a spring underneath this chopstick. So as your truck is coming through the gate and you just touch it, it'll wiggle. So we call them scrub penalties. So you'll get like a, whether we do a -3 or a +3, whatever, you'll get a scrub penalty. But now if you like drive over it, the spring just drops, folds down. Right. But then when you drive up off of it, it comes back up. So the breakover penalties, 5 points, the scrubs 3. And there's no disputing it. Right. So like if you have big mirrors that hang out on your truck, or if you're wide width tires, you'll see this thing wiggle. And with the spring loaded part of it, it's cool because you could set a gate like this, and if you side hill through it and you miss it, no problem. But if you hit it, it wiggles. Yep. So we already got outfitted for 60 gates. We're planning on doing a fall invitational leafer only classic for the first inaugural event this fall. I'm going to try and get it set up with 4 different regions of drivers. I'd like to get 5 drivers from each region, north, south, east, west type of thing. Leafs only, 4.5-inch tall tire or smaller. You can run any configuration you want. It's just got to be on leafs, and it can't be on anything bigger than a 4.5-inch tall tire. That's the only thing. We're going to do a money buy-in. Winner takes all. Second place gets their money back, and third place we're going to do gets either, well, actually, I'm sorry, second place will get double, third place will get their money back, and first place takes the rest of the pot. So we're going to, and I would like to kind of go from there. We're going to do multi-axle classes here. We'll do everything up to 2.2. We're not going to do anything in the 2.2 class here just because it's not going to be very challenging for a 2.2 truck,
right.
All
right, so I want to address.
But tiny tires.
I'd like to address a comment that I saw. It says that the live feed keeps kicking people off. Well, if it's kicking you out, I for one appreciate you keep coming back in. But if you get sick of that and Facebook really rubs you the wrong way, and I apologize, you can check this out. Yeah. I will be uploading it to YouTube. If not tomorrow, it'll happen over the weekend. It should happen by tomorrow. It all depends on how much longer we go and when I fall asleep. If I get it done in time, it'll happen by sometime this evening. So if you're watching it on YouTube, I apologize for the break in the comments there, but I just wanted to address Facebook Live does some really, really funky things. And so I've looked at just doing it over on YouTube, but YouTube also does funky things from what I've seen and heard and realized.
So,
So the live feed portion, like there are just some quirks that eventually it's all going to even out and it'll look really good. But I still think we're a little bit on the earlier side of doing this as far as where the technology's at. So if you guys
yeah, of
deal
course.
with the bumps along the road and keep following along, I genuinely appreciate it, and we'll go from there. So
Yeah, so do I. So do I. I'm glad you guys are tuning in still.
right.
It's pretty good.
So let's. Do you have like some advice? You've had a home course for a long time. You've done some of that stuff. Do you have any advice for doing a home course like at your house?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll give it to you in a few different reasons why I have different advice for it. I used to be married. I was a happily married man for about a dozen years or so. And my ex-wife, God bless her, she dealt with a lot of the comp crawling stuff and all the nightmares and headaches that I went through during the comp crawling days. Um, so trying to convince her into giving me a chunk of the backyard here to utilize for something that was a passion of mine, it was a hard sales pitch, because she wants like a little oasis and stuff. So I definitely 110% before anything else recommend form over function and then function. So if you have a wife or a girlfriend or a husband or a boyfriend or a significant other that might give you a little static with taking your backyard and dissecting it and turning it into a little play area for you with your friends and your toy trucks, you might want to think like, well, maybe I should put like a little pond in here and like a little gardening bed and this way she can have a little say in the thing, or he can have a little say in the thing as to what we're going to do in the backyard. And then, if it starts out in just a small little section, which the way mine was, I just had a little, I would say maybe a 30 long by 15-foot wide strip,
Right.
maybe 12-foot wide at first. And then it grew a little bit out of that. And then it grew a little bit added to that. And then after the divorce, like now I don't have anybody to worry about, but I still want my yard to be very functional and very uh, capable and very
Right.
fun. So I don't want it to just look like a dump truck came through and just dropped a bunch of boulders and took off and just left the yard in shambles. So over the last year, what we've done is we, got rid of grass, got rid of weeds, we got rid of stuff that's unused. I had a pool and a deck. I got rid of all that. So I turned where my pool used to be into a nice fire pit. I took some parts of my deck and turned into benches. We're going to have hammocks hung. The old railing that went around my deck is now going to be the fence that separates my dogs from the comp course, from the crawler course. And this way I don't have to worry about landmines from my dogs. And then like the other thing is I recommend checking out what other people have done so you can get ideas. Like the Scale Builders Guild guys, Smiggins
Oh my
Folly,
God.
that little home course that they have, holy cow. Holy cow. Like that place is bananas. And it's tiny.
Yeah,
Like I don't know if you've ever seen like the full
I
shot
have.
of that thing. It's not that big. But man, it looks great. It looks great. They killed it. They did a great job. There's a couple other guys that I follow on YouTube that do a lot of the 1/6 scale
Okay.
Jeeps, the Willys Jeeps and stuff. I've been paying a lot of attention to how those guys set up their home courses too. And again, they're very functional, but they have a very aesthetically pleasing appearance to, essentially what is just
Right.
trails. Um, but the way it's landscaped, and if you have any water that's running through it, even better, because like that's one of my favorite things about the home course is going out there and hearing the water
Yeah.
run. It's kind of tranquil, it's kind of peaceful. You can sit out at a nice night, turn your pumps on, and let
Yep.
everything run. And just sit out there, listen to the fire, listen to your water running in the backyard, and hang out, watch the stars, and just kick back in a hammock or something. You know, but like those are my biggest things. Is A, find somebody who's going to be willing to let you deal with, putting a home course in, finding out how crazy you want to go, and try not to make it permanent. That's my other thing. Like with having these guys come out with the spray cretes, a couple of guys that we wheel with here in Jersey, the Hidden Valley RC guys,
Yeah.
Stu, Greg, they set up a course out in the woods where they wheel at, and they turned me on to a couple different tricks, which is one of the things that we'll be doing here. Is taking painters cloth canvas tarps, 8 mil, uh, and they make them in a gazillion sizes. Like I went to the Home Depot and I bought 8 different size tarps, ranging from hallway length runners that are about 25 foot long by about 6 foot
Yeah.
wide, to 15 by 15 squares, and everything in between both of those. You soak them in mortar mix. You make up a very soupy mortar mix in your wheelbarrow, dunk that tarp in there, soak it all up, and that's why we spend all the time forming everything already. We have dirt mounds with rocks stuck in them. We have V notches. We have cracks. We have all kinds of fun stuff set up here. We're going to wrap with the tarp and then go over with the Spray-Crete,
Right.
just to modify and mold and form extra. Maybe it might be a little light in that area on the mortar mix. So go back over with a little Spray-Crete and you're down the road. But none of that's permanent. None of that's permanent. You can pull that canvas right up off of it and it'll break apart just like an old plaster of Paris cast.
Yeah.
So now if I ever want to sell my house, all I got to do is come through here with a bobcat, scoop up all the bigger piles of dirt and stuff, and just put in some grass seed, and down the road I go.
Yep.
You can sell your house. So that's the other thing. Don't make it permanent. Make it to where you can take it apart, just in case.
Yeah.
So
No, that's
like there's another guy here in my local area. He has a big chunk of his property dedicated to a home course, and he literally had 2 triaxle loads of stuff brought to his house.
that's nuts.
And it's just dumb. That's too much for me. It looks cool, but it's just way too much for me. That would kill my whole backyard. I still want to entertain friends who aren't necessarily into the hobby. So I could still have a functioning yard to where people come over and not just look at a big pile of rock.
Yeah. So I built a pond, a koi pond, and then it's walk.
Oh, I love koi
You
ponds.
got the whole ordeal. That's the way
Yeah.
I would totally agree with what you said. Form over function, because you can make anything more challenging. You just
Oh, yeah.
you just build it to make
Yeah.
it look good and make sense for your house. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about who are some of your influences in the scale crawling segment of the hobby, and if you were going to pick one person to have on, who would you pick?
Man, so that's a tough one because I have a few. There's probably 5 people who are most influential to me in terms of builds, driving, and just overall personality people. Metal Masher, the guy who built my Truggy, is one of my favorite builders. He's seriously one of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
Yeah, Blake
He's
is
an amazing driver.
Like, I met Blake.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
The first year I went to East Coast, I mean, I was just literally a face in the crowd. Like, I wasn't even that, like, any whatever. And he talked to me for, like, 2 hours, went through everything, showed me every detail of everything, explained the whole process. Oh, man. Blake is amazing. So.
Yeah, so, like, he's definitely one. Another person that is very inspiring to me, that one of the reasons why I get along with him so well is because he's constantly pushing the envelope too, with his builds, and not just on the scale mini truck scene. Brian Almeida, Exclusive RC, he builds some of the sickest construction equipment. He builds some of the sickest semi trucks, 14 scale. He builds some of the craziest. Like he has 2 18-wheeler trucks in his shed right now that he's working on.
Yeah.
That blow my mind. When I go there, I look at it. Sometimes I just want to take my bottom lip and just put it up over my whole face because it becomes too much. You know what I mean? But the level that he pushes it constantly, constantly coming out with more parts, more scale items for your rigs. and now with the new technology, the different printers that he has, so that's something. Plus, he and I were great buddies. There's no disputing that. So he's one. Burt Melchner, A&M Garage 2. He's a phenomenal guy. Can't say enough about him. He's an amazing driver. He's a gentleman, and he's an amazing builder. Um, so I would say probably those three guys are probably tied for
Yeah.
me. There's other people like I love Ashley Wheelwright, Jeremy Kilburn. Both of those guys are very inspirational to me. Jeremy Kilburn, he is one of the best builders that I've met. He's one of the best, nicest guys I've met. Super fun to hang out with. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's a laundry list. There's a ton of people out west too that I could suggest to have you put on this show as
Yeah.
well. Um, there's a ton of guys out on the left side that get ignored by us out here because we don't really run into them all that often. But there's a super great, talented group of guys out there. Um, I mean, Jesus, even good old Mr. Dan Wilson, he'd be a fun guy to put on the show just because he's a riot to hang out with. Plus,
Yeah.
he's a very good driver. He's a very good builder. Works at Vanquish too, so that helps him a little. A little extra cool points. But yeah, I would have to say for top three though, I would definitely say it would be between Burt, Brian Almeida, and Blake Metal Masher.
Yeah. So
So, but yeah,
I'm gonna
those
shift.
those guys there.
I'm gonna give you one of the hardest questions I ever ask anybody is what rig out there that is not your own is your favorite?
Oh, oh man. See that is a tough one because I don't think there's been an event that I've been to that I haven't seen a truck that I was like, if that was for sale, I would take it home. Um, so like, let's see, let's try to remember them. Um, let's see. Hmm.
Dude, I told you it's the hardest question ever.
It is a tough one because I mean, with the people that are out there building stuff nowadays, um,
So I'm gonna
man,
rephrase my question. So like, just right
go ahead.
now, you spend some time on social media. You go through like, what is the thing you're following right now? It doesn't have to be your favorite, but what is the thing you're following right now?
In terms of a
Yeah.
build, oh, in terms of a build, well, I'll be honest with you, I've been loving all of the new Vanquish rig builds. Um, I haven't seen anything that's been like over the top with them yet in terms of
Right.
like anything other than what's on
Right.
them. But I've enjoyed watching the build videos and the unboxing and stuff. Um, but honestly, I would say probably right now the one thing that I've been following the most, aside from that, would be the new G-Made rig.
Okay.
That bomb rig that they have. It kind of looks like a Ford Ranger and a Dodge Dakota had a love child, and they made the G-Made truck with it. But there's so much stuff on that truck that I like that nobody's done yet. Like they have a rear back half cantilever suspension, or you could set it up to where it would be like with the old, shocks, kind of like on my old Toyota, like from out
Yeah.
like how the TF2s are set
Yep.
up. Um, you know, but the way that they set up the transmission, the drivetrain, I'm really, really impressed by that layout. Um, so I think truck wise, that might be the one that I'm watching the most right now. I've been waiting on the release date for that, and I've been kind of bugging Brian Almeida because he's a main dealer, and I know that they're going to be coming up through a main. So I've been hammering on him quite a bit, like, hey, any word on the release yet? I did actually order the Vanquish rig today, so I will be getting one. I'm hoping next week sometime it'll be here. Um, but like overall, people's builds, like a build that I would want to get, man. I gotta say, probably the most impressed build that I've been seeing recently, and it's been fun watching it work too, and actually getting to see it in use. Brian Almeida made an awesome like mid 40s Dodge Power
Yep.
Wagon kind of tow truck looking. Uh, it's a smaller truck. I would probably say it's somewhere closer to a 12 scale. Um, but man, that truck, it's got the soup to nuts. You know, from front to back, there isn't a detail left undone. It's pretty, and he uses it. He uses it. He wheeled it at Motorama. He broke it, like broke it, not just like kind of had something happen. Like he broke the back axle, so like it's not
Right.
babied, And out at the Blue Rocks event a couple weekends ago in PA here, he was out again wheeling it and he broke it again. So it's not a babied rig. Like he takes the thing out and he wheels it, but again, it's like soup to nuts. There's not anything missing off
Right.
of it. So like as a custom built rig, I would say that bully I think he calls it the Pit Bully Power Wagon or the Power Wagon Pit Bull or something to that effect. Custom build, that's probably the one I'm looking at the most now. But like in terms of ready to run or a kit that's available on the market, I would say it's probably that G Made and the
Yep.
Vanquish. But more so the G Made. I got to be honest with you. Like I'm a lot more excited about getting that G Made rig because I already know the Vanquish rig is going to be tits. Excuse my French, but I mean, like, listen, they've done their homework. They had the best of the best guys
Oh
building
yeah.
on it. They had the best of the best guys working on the design. Plus, they've been perfecting their axles and their transmissions and their suspension and their links. So, like, you're getting a
Yeah.
perfect truck. Like, so there's really nothing, it's not going to be a wonder or a curiosity for me. I've already seen videos. I know they work. I saw Dan Wilson kick the crap out of everybody at K&K with it in the Class 2 competition. I know the truck's going to work. So that's not something I'm really concerned about. It's just something that I want. You know what I mean? So it's the reason why I ordered it. But the G-Made truck, I think I'm most excited about that truck because of, it's something nobody else has
Right.
done yet. You know?
All right, man. So this is the part where I ask if you currently have any sponsors and why have you chosen to represent those companies?
Oh man, that's easy. I used to have a laundry list. I did. I had a pretty impressive list of sponsors over the past couple years. Obviously everybody knows I was with Pitbull
Yep.
for a ton of time. One of my other longest sponsors is Cody from CBE Fab. Cody has been supportive of me in so many ways for so many years. He's constantly checking in with me to see if there's anything I need. You need a new sweatshirt, you need hats, you need T-shirts, you need any parts, you need anything, you need
Yeah.
anything. Cody, he's been a great sponsor for me for a ton of time. I don't even know how many years it's been. Like it's been a long time since I've been with Cody. So I love his products, his hard parts that he makes. I'm a huge fan of his link risers. I use them on every one of my SCX 10 base platform trucks. Um, I love he's got shock keys that he makes, but I don't use them for shock keys. I use them for so many other things. Like the parts that he makes, they're so
Yeah.
universal. So it's not that I just use it for one specific thing. I know that he's gotten into chassis. I haven't dabbled with a switchback chassis yet because I'm a fan of a C channel chassis. I do like the C channel. The switchback chassis, it's like a vertical
Right.
plate style chassis. But I've seen a ton of great builds come off of that platform. A ton of great builds, and they're very, very functional. Um, so Cody, like I said, I've been with him for a ton of time, love him to death. Couldn't ask for a better sponsor. I've also been with Mike Kirby and Team K&K for a little while. I was with them for, I believe, about 2 years. But this past year, I decided, I'll move away and open up a seat for somebody new, up and coming to come along. I did the same thing. I was with Reefs RC for a while with the servos. Same thing. I decided to pull my card from them as well, just to open up seats for somebody young and up and
Right.
coming. I was with Bauhaus and Helios RC for a long time too. Those guys, I think I just kind of outgrew them, in terms of, just it got to a point where I think we just didn't have anything to offer either one of each other. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's kind of one of those things like, why are we here? Uh, yeah, I think it was more so just because we were really good friends. You know what I
Right.
mean? And they were like, hey, well, you're already using our stuff, so why don't you come hang out with us, kind of thing. So, but again, same thing with them. I just told them like, hey, give my seat up to somebody young, up and coming. So currently, my list it's short now. I'm represented by Castle Creations. I've been on board with Castle now for about a year. Um, I've been using Castle-based ESCs. Like I'm a fan for brushed. I love the Holmes BRXL. Probably hands down my most favorite ESC on the market for a brush system. Um, but the Castle systems, their new Slate line and the Mamba X, I mean, I can't say enough about them. The 1900 kV motor that they have with the Mamba X Pro on 3S with a BEC, that's like my number one favorite setup that I have right now. If I had the money, I would put it in every rig that I have. Like there's no question of that. The other two Slate can motors that they make, I believe it's a 2850 and a 2250. Both those awesome. I have the big one, the 2850. I have in my Toyota clone, and that thing is a rocket ship, and it's a lot of fun. But it's got tons of great low end control, um, super smooth, quiet, very efficient, very efficient. Um, so Castle's got me on board, and Exclusive RC. I've been with Exclusive RC now, I believe, for about 3 years. And again, same thing with Brian. The parts that he makes are top notch. He goes that extra step. He's putting the detail in. He's putting the time in on his parts, um, and they're the top quality.
Yeah.
You know, the quality of the parts, and the fact that he is a lot easier to get into my brain than some of the other people that I work with in terms of trying to translate my images.
Right.
You know, for instance, like with that new SCX 10.2 Blazer, it has just a 2D interior in it. Well, that's not good enough for me. I want room for four. I want tool compartments. I want opening tube doors. I want opening hood. I want engine bay. I want all that stuff. So I was very fortunate when I got the new kit. They sent me a clear body to go with it. So I was able to give Brian the rig with both bodies. This way he could get everything ready. He's scanning everything off of the blue body because it shows up on the scanner versus the
Right.
clear one. So when we get that thing back, man, I like just off of the stuff that he and I have bounced off of one another. He's already gotten a dual servo mount for me up front, so we keep the stock steering in the proper location. A servo mount winch for that as well. Battery relocation. I'm gonna have a 454 big block under the hood, carb rated. Full interior with enough room for four full bodies. From foot up. Like we're not half stepping
Right.
anything. So the factory cage from the Blazer body will be integrated into the actual 3D tub that Brian's going to print for it. So Brian has just been like the stuff for the Vanquish rig that he's coming out with too is ridiculous as well. So there's those are my three main sponsors that I have. I have been in talks with other people, but I'm not ready to pull triggers right now.
Right.
I'm very content and very comfortable. I've been really enjoying the summer. After my resignation with Pitbull, it just allows me to concentrate on playing with trucks.
There you go.
And that was something that I was kind of losing sight of for quite some time because I was so engulfed and so just consumed by what we were doing as the progression of Pitbull kept chugging along. So I was losing sight of what got me here, and that's playing with toy trucks with my friends. So I was able to concentrate on that, and it's been much easier on my constitution since I've been able to do that and shed the responsibilities
Oh.
of working. Now I just get to play trucks. So, but yeah, like the three sponsors I have, I'm gonna stay with them for as long as they'll keep me. Because they treat me great. I love representing them. Kate and Chris at Castle have been nothing but awesome. I got to meet at the Horizon Fest this year. I got to meet a couple of the other bigwig guys from Castle. So, and they were very warm and welcoming, for not ever meeting me before. And I just show up standing in front of them like, hey guys, how is it? Like what's going on? And oh, by the way, I'm one of your team
Right.
drivers. It's nice to meet you. oh, we've heard all about you. Kate and Chris spoke highly of you, so it's cool. It's very warm and welcoming with the Castle family. And again, like I said, I can't say enough good about Cody and CBE and Brian at Exclusive. So, yeah, they've all been very good to me. Every sponsor I've ever had has actually been great to me. I can't say enough good things about any
Right.
of them. I constantly promote Reefs still. Like at the Blue Rocks event, I have my Reefs banner up. I'm promoting the servos. It's the only servo I run anymore. I have them in everything I own. Um, great, quiet servo, strong, super
Yeah.
efficient, cheap. I don't want to say cheap, but
Right.
affordable. And great options too. They have a couple great options, and every one that I have has been flawless.
That's awesome.
Perfect working. So yeah, I still like to promote the people. Like I said, I was with K&K for quite some time. I still promote them. They're still the only hardware I use. Bauhaus and Helios with their axles and their the batteries. I use their batteries. I still have their axles under a couple sets of my trucks. They make good quality parts too. Oh, excuse me. I do a lot of work with Jonathan Baskins at PowerShift. However, I'm not sponsored
Yeah.
by him. However, he does make parts for me. Um, make light systems for me and stuff like that as well. He's one of the reasons why my Unimog is so easy to see from space when it's at nighttime because of how bright it is.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
Jason Page, you're asking me if I open my reefs and grease them. I have, but only the ones that I've been running the longest. I have one of their 422s that has been cracked open once by me. That is the only one. I have pulled them apart to inspect them just to see what I was looking at on the inside. But only so far the one 422 is the only one that I have actually greased since being in
yeah.
use. The 555 that's in my Unimog and the 555 that's in my Chevy Truggy, they haven't been in for a year yet. This summer, in September, it'll be a year that I've had them both in. So sometime this winter, I'll be pulling them apart just to inspect them to make sure when we go do just the general regular maintenance and bearing check and stuff like that, just to make sure everything's still in running
Yeah.
order. So.
All right, man. So, kind of one of my finishing questions here is what should we expect to see next from you?
Man, total domination. Like I told you in one of the conference talks that we've had in the past, like I've got a couple irons and a couple different fires. I've had nothing but great experience since Axial has been in talks with me. Like I had a very good conversation with Anthony Rivas yesterday through Axial Racing. Is there potential for our future together? 110%. I think I could see myself with any company really, but I do enjoy the company that I've made with Axial so far. I really enjoy the stuff that they've been allowing me to do. Is there a potential for a future with them? 100%. Will there be a future with us? Who knows? Another good friend I was speaking with today, Paul Wilhite from Proline, I had a very good conversation with him this afternoon. I will be seeing him out at his event. I gave him my word that I would make it out to Prolines by the Fire this
Yeah.
year. One of the main reasons why I was speaking with Paul. Over the past year or so, there were a couple other job offers that did come across my plate that were very unexpected. One of them I did turn down, but I turned it down with probably the most amount of respect I could have possibly given anybody to potentially keep that bridge open and unburned.
Yeah.
So we've stayed in contact. There was another surprise company that hit me up shortly after my resignation, which kind of knocked me back a little bit because it was one that I didn't expect to ever approach me. A good friend of mine through school is actually a team driver. I'm not going to drop the name, but a good buddy of mine is a team driver for the company. And shortly after my resignation from Pitbull, because I had reached out with my buddy through school, he's a buggy, truggy, nitro and electric
Yep.
racer. And when we were designing our shock oil and our diff fluid for Pitbull, I had gotten him the full line of both sets of
Right.
oils, and I'd also given him one of our containers of grease back in the day. So when he had found out, and he was somebody I also run into Motorama every year. So after my resignation through Pitbull, he had gotten into contacts with his team manager for the company that he's a sponsored tire driver
Right.
for. And the team manager for them contacted me. I believe it was the same day actually that Revis from Axial reached out to me as well. Um, and they told me if there was anything they could do to help my transition back into non-Pitbull related life to just, reach out and let them know. So basically my biggest concern, like I said before, though, I just wanted to concentrate on getting back to my roots for the summer and just concentrate on playing trucks, because we did have some travel coming up and, I'm going to Parker Fest Euro in September. So, another reason why I didn't want to get in bed with anybody, just because of the amount of
Right.
traveling that I was going to be doing this summer. I didn't want to try and get back into the saddle with somebody to have to pull the reins because I'm going away for 10 days in August and then a week in September. So I'd say probably maybe sometime in the fall, I'd start, if it was something that I was really anxiously anticipating and getting involved with back in bed with another company, doing what I did for Pitbull for 9 years. There's always the possibility of that. I've made enough solid friends over the last 9 years working with Pitbull and playing with toy trucks in the industry, to where I don't have any burnt
Yeah.
bridges, to where I can walk, and talk clearly to whomever and whoever I want on a daily basis. I mean, shit, you might end up seeing me wearing a voodoo jacket at some point in time. You never know. Like with me, there's no option that I wouldn't listen to. There's no listen. I'm always happy, but I'm always willing to be
Right.
happier. So if somebody wants to try and make me the happiest of all happy Buddhists, then I'll sit down and let somebody rub my stomach until I stop smiling. So, but we don't have any definite plans other than you'll see me behind the wheel of a tiny truck. That's my only definite plan that I have right
Well, there
now.
you
But
go,
the
man.
future, uh, the future, there's no telling where I'm going to end up. I mean, who knows? Shit, I might make it back to Pitbull one day. Who knows? Like if it was really, this might just be a break that we needed. You know what I mean? It could be, like shit. You see Rich from Horizon. He left Horizon for a little while and he went to RC four wheel drive and he tinkered around some other place and boom, he's back with
Yeah.
Horizon again. So you never know what could happen. The future, who
It's
knows?
unwritten, man.
No telling.
It's coming. We'll see what
That's
happens.
it. That's the best part of it. Unwritten certainty.
Yeah. So, all right, man. Well, I have to thank you. This has been a great interview. I enjoyed thoroughly every
Thank you
second
so
of
much.
it.
I had a great time too.
I'm. It was awesome. So, I don't know why we didn't do it a little sooner. I didn't send my message quick enough.
Hey, well, listen, I'm always up for it. Yeah, I'm always up. You wanna touch base and have 2.0 in a few months? I'm down. I'll go again.
Awesome, man. And I'm sure as things transpire and we see what goes on, I did just write down like a whole list of people, but as that goes on and we see what happens, I'm sure that we'll have some
Awesome.
people return, and I think your name would be high on the list. So, all right, man.
Awesome. That sounds
If you don't
great,
have
Adam.
anything
Thank you
else that you
again.
need to add, I'm gonna let you go and kind of finish this thing out and see if I can't cycle that YouTube video
Um,
up. So,
Matt, really, the only thing I'd like to say is just extend a great thank you to you. I had a very good time, very enjoyable time doing this tonight. I'd like to thank everybody who tuned in at some point in time or the whole
yeah,
time. I would definitely like to thank my sponsors, Castle Creation, CBE, RC Fab, and Exclusive RC. I would like to thank anybody who plays toy trucks with me. I would like to thank anybody who's been supportive and behind me at anything I've ever done. And most of all, I'd like to thank my daughter,
yeah,
for being baby bear and for allowing me to be the best daddy bear I can be.
awesome, man.
So, other than that, man, I'm good to go.
Great. Well, then I'm going to let you go and I'm going to talk for a few minutes and close this thing out.
Sounds good. Adam, again, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. I look forward to doing it
Yeah,
again.
thanks for being on, and I'm sure we'll do it again. So, all right, I'll talk to you later.
All right, buddy. Sounds good. Thank you. Have a good night.
You
Take
too.
care,
Bye.
everybody. Have a good one. Bye bye.
All right, guys, that concludes our interview with Dez. I think it was a great interview. I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation, and he's a great guy with lots of great contacts and trying to do right and spread positivity. I like what he said about just taking a step back and enjoying the hobby for what it is. It is a hobby. It's tiny trucks, and we play with them because they're fun. And so when you lose sight of the fun, maybe it's time to take a step back. And I think that was probably a great move. Aside from all of that, I do have some people coming up. I don't have their names written down and I don't have their dates written down. I apologize for that. Check out the Live at 9:45 Facebook group hosted by me at Van Ork Customs. If you're not already a subscriber on my YouTube channel, go over and subscribe to YouTube. I would genuinely appreciate your subscription. I post up every interview that I do afterwards, and then some. There's some pieces to what goes on there as well. And I post videos of different running things and whatnot. And if you like those, that's cool too. But at least all the interviews end up over there. Additionally, check me out on Instagram, VanOrt_Customs, Facebook at VanOrt Customs, and if you're interested in any scale plates, banners, or scale garage backdrops, hit me up at VanOrtCustoms.com. Other than that, guys, I will catch you next week where I will be talking to, I can't remember who. I know I have Wes Braswell lined up and at least one other person that my mind is slipping. It's been a long conversation. So, anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. I'll catch you all in the future, and if it wasn't for all of you tuning in, it'd just be me talking to myself or me talking to some other person, and that's no fun. So, thank you for playing along. Thank you for doing all that stuff, and I'll catch you guys all next week on Live at 9:45. Thanks.